The Galactic Agricultural Council had seen many species attempt to join their ranks over the millennia. The Zephyrians with their crystal-based photosynthetic arrays, the Mollusk Collective with their oceanic kelp forests that could feed entire star systems, the insectoid hive builders who could terraform barren worlds into garden paradises within decades. But never had they encountered anything quite like Marcus Chen. The human stood before the assembled council, dirt still caked under his fingernails, wearing what the sophisticated alien delegates could only describe as primitive fabric coverings. His proposal was written on actual paper, not holographic displays, not neural link presentations, not even basic digital formats. Paper. "Honored Council," Marcus began, his voice steady despite the barely contained snickers from the audience. "I request permission to establish agricultural operations on the abandoned world of Kepler 442c. High Counselor Vexithara, a towering crystalline being, whose species had mastered hydroponics before humans had discovered fire, leaned forward with what passed for amusement among her kind. Human. That world has been declared agriculturally impossible by our finest scientists. The soil is depleted, contaminated with industrial waste from the extinct Corvani civilization. Our best terraforming crews abandoned it as hopeless 3 centuries ago. With respect, Counselor," Marcus replied, pulling out a small cloth pouch from his pocket, "I believe you're wrong." The laughter that erupted from the chamber was polite but unmistakable. The slug-like gastropodons literally slimed with mirth. The avian Etherians ruffled their iridescent feathers in what Marcus had learned was their equivalent of eye-rolling. "Human," interjected Coordinator Blip-Blop, a gelatinous being whose species had perfected nutrient synthesis. "We have molecular reconstructors, atmospheric processors, and genetic cultivation matrices. What could your primitive methods possibly accomplish that our advanced technology cannot?" Marcus smiled and opened his pouch, revealing ordinary-looking seeds. "These are heritage tomato seeds, Cherokee purples specifically. They've been in my family for 6 generations. Before that, they were cultivated by Native American tribes for over 1,000 years." The chamber fell silent, not from respect, but from confusion. "Seeds," Vexithara stated flatly. "You wish to save a dead world with seeds." "Not just any seeds," Marcus continued. "These have survived droughts, floods, diseases, and soil conditions that would kill most plants. They've adapted, evolved, persevered. My grandfather grew these during the Dust Bowl of the 1930s when half of America's farmland turned to desert. My great-grandmother cultivated them during World War III when the acid rains came." The Mollusk Collective's representative, a writhing mass of tentacles named Gurgle Flash, burbled dismissively. "Adaptation is inefficient. We simply modify the environment to suit our crops, not the reverse." "Permission denied," Vexthera declared. "We will not waste council resources on a futile gesture." But Marcus had already anticipated this. Humans, it turned out, were remarkably good at finding loopholes in galactic bureaucracy. Since Kepler 442c was abandoned and unclaimed, he filed for individual settlement rights, a dusty provision in the colonial charter that no one had used in millennia. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the poisoned soil of Kepler 442c, breathing filtered air and wearing a radiation suit. The world was everything the council had said: barren, toxic, seemingly beyond redemption. Industrial ruins dotted the landscape like metal tombstones. He began small, not with massive terraforming equipment or genetic modification laboratories, but with compost, decades of food scraps, organic waste, and carefully managed decomposition. He introduced earthworms, creatures so humble that most galactic civilizations had never bothered to study them, despite their remarkable ability to transform waste into rich, living soil. The work was backbreaking. He planted cover crops first, nitrogen-fixing legumes that could survive in harsh conditions. He rotated his plantings following techniques his ancestors had perfected over millennia. When the first plants died, he composted them back into the soil. When they survived, he saved their seeds, selecting always for resilience. The galactic community forgot about the human farmer on the dead world. They had more pressing concerns. The Great Blight had begun to spread across the outer rim, a fungal infection that was destroying crops faster than their technology could compensate. Entire systems faced starvation. It was in the 3rd year of the crisis that a desperate survey team detected something impossible on their sensors: massive agricultural signatures from Kepler 442c. High, Counselor Vex Athara herself led the investigation team that arrived to find Marcus's farm, stretching to the horizon, not sterile hydroponic facilities or synthetic food production, but living, breathing fields of incredible diversity. Tomatoes hung heavy on their vines, corn swayed in the artificial breeze, beans climbed trellises made from salvaged Corvani metal. "How?" she whispered, her crystalline form refracting the light from twin suns over acres of impossible green. Marcus, now weathered and sun-darkened, smiled as he picked a perfect tomato and offered it to her. "Your species forgot something important, Counselor. Life doesn't want to be controlled. It wants to adapt, to survive, to thrive. You can't engineer your way around every problem. Sometimes you have to trust in 10,000 years of evolution and the wisdom of those who came before." The tomato was unlike anything Vex Athara had ever tasted. Complex, rich, alive in ways that synthesized nutrition could never match. "The blight," she said urgently. "Our worlds are dying. Can your methods help?" Marcus nodded toward fields that seemed to glow with health despite growing in soil that should have been toxic. "Life finds a way, Counselor. But it needs time, patience, and respect for the old ways. Your people want quick solutions, but some problems can only be solved by getting your hands dirty and trusting in the slow wisdom of the earth." Within a decade, human agricultural advisors were working across the galaxy, not as junior partners to advance civilizations, but as teachers. They brought not just seeds, but soil science, companion planting, natural pest management, and above all, the understanding that true sustainability came not from controlling nature, but from working with it. The mockery had long since died away. In its place was something the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries: hope growing from humble soil, one seed at a time. And in the fields of a dozen worlds, Cherokee purple tomatoes grew strong and true, carrying within them the memory of Earth and the promise of tomorrow.